Execution by mother's choice. Abortion. Wow. Here we are just west of Stratford, Ontario, on Highway 7. Just coming back from a visit to London, and we noticed, looking back, because it's on the north side of the highway, this sign. And I remember we noticed this a couple of years ago. I'm surprised it's still here. I noticed there is some black paint on it, but it's still up. And wow. Now, it's a beautiful picture of a preborn child, but it does have the ugly word abortion on it, and definition, execution by mother's choice. Strangely, today is the last day of September. It's Monday, September 30th, and in Canada, that's a national holiday to recognize the horrors of the residential schools and all the terrible things that happened to the Indigenous children at these schools in the 19th century in Canada and even into the 20th century. Now, recently, in the last couple of years, I think it was 2021, it's 2024 now, there was some ground penetrating radar images that were released, and showed some anomalies. I think it was at the Kamloops Residential School in BC, on the actual reserve. That's what that school was, apparently. And the ground penetrating radar indicated some anomalies below the ground, and it was claimed that it possibly could be the remains, the human remains of Indigenous children that were murdered there. And they talked about 215 young children, young Indigenous children that were murdered by Catholic priests and nuns, some of them in the middle of the night, apparently, which seems really hard to believe. It's a horrible story. But the mainstream media immediately accepted it as truth, even though the Indigenous woman who was basically doing the research with the ground penetrating radar cautioned that, the ground penetrating radar doesn't indicate that it's human remains, just that there's an anomaly there. It could be rocks or anything. It could also be bodies. But immediately Justin Trudeau accepted it as proof that the Catholic Church once again is guilty of horrible atrocities. And I don't think there's been one single body of a child or an adult that has been exhumed at any of the sites where ground penetrating radar was done. But no matter, we're supposed to accept that as true. In fact, today is called National Truth and Reconciliation Day, and yet not one single child's body has ever been exhumed. I wonder why they won't even check to see if there is a body there. I know in some places they actually have. I know in a church basement, I think in Alberta, the Indigenous community decided to exhume what they thought was a site. They did it very carefully with the archaeologists from university, and all they found was rubble, stones, concrete, no indication of human remains. And they were happy, as they should be. They were really afraid of what they might find there. But they found nothing but rocks. And you would think that the mainstream media and the government would be really happy about that and proclaim, isn't it wonderful that they didn't find anything? Let's check out the other sites and see if there's any bodies there. But no, they don't want to check, I guess. But meanwhile, the government last year, I think in the fall of 2023, declared in Parliament that the residential school system was guilty of genocide. And I don't think one single MP opposed it. It was passed unanimously in Parliament last year, and they created this national holiday to spend time trying to reconcile the Indigenous community with the horror of this past atrocity, and try to somehow recover the past. But what is true is that abortion kills a child. And one of their slogans is "Every child matters." Apparently 215 children were murdered and buried secretly in the night at the Kamloops Residential School, and yet they still have not exhumed one single body. But a lot of Indigenous children have been murdered through abortion and are every day killed by abortion. In Canada, I think the statistic is about 300 children are killed through abortion every day, Monday to Sunday, 7 days a week on average. And that's a fact. But their bodies aren't buried. They're thrown down the toilet, flushed into the sewer system, or discarded as medical waste. And many of those children are Indigenous. Why are we not mourning their loss and their death? Abortion is execution, not always by mother's choice. In fact, I think most of the time the mother doesn't have a choice, and that's why she has an abortion. We need to give her a better choice than to kill her child. We need to love them both. And today, I pray that there will be reconciliation. But without truth, there will be no reconciliation. The truth is that abortion kills children, Indigenous children, and every other kind of Canadian child. And not one single political party in Canada is willing to oppose it. Pierre Poilievre and his wife are proudly what they call pro-choice. They will not defend the defenseless. The NTB won't, and certainly the Liberals won't. Only Maxime Bernier says he will at least limit the slaughter. I think he's not pro-life either. Why will we not defend our children? It's a sad day in Canada, because without truth, there will never be any reconciliation. And the truth is, in fact, every child should matter. Every child deserves the right to life. No child deserves to be executed by her mother. Choose life for mother and child.